Apologies, Minister. I'm running back from the House. Just before we adjourn, Minister, I want to raise the issue of departmental performance. Now, I accept and I know how performance targets are established by the Management Board to measure performance within the department. But as a committee, we have a responsibility to monitor the ongoing spending within the department on an annual basis. And the most effective tool for us to do that is through the departmental performance targets. Now, as you know, we set out in our pre-budget submission issues regarding the departmental performance and the need to modernise and update those performance targets. And while I accept that the performance targets have been pretty much historic targets from year to year in terms of the number of payments issued and so forth. But the difficulty is we as a committee believe that they don't effectively drive the type of change that we believe that is needed in terms of the delivery within the department. Now, that's not taking from the fact that, you know, we all find in our day-to-day dealings with this department that it is very responsive to the needs of individuals. But I think that more can be done to try and improve the processing time for applications, because the difficulty is that when payments are delayed for people, that causes financial hardship. And we spoke earlier about the exceptional needs payments, and that is available to some people. It's not available to others for various reasons, but nevertheless, it does cause financial hardship for people. And I think, you know, there are mechanisms that can actually be used to actually speed up these within the confines of the challenges that are there in terms of making sure that, you know, there's proper scrutiny of every application. I'll give you an example previously of the time that we had the ongoing issues with domiciliary care allowance, and Deputy O'Keefe was the Minister in charge at the time. And that application form was radically transformed to facilitate parents of children who were on the autism spectrum. And that made a significant difference in terms of the volume of applications that went for review and subsequently went for appeal at the time. And the committee has highlighted specifically one area in its report, and that was in terms of common errors and mistakes that are made in application forms. And look, as public representatives, we all know one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is they fail to sign the actual application form. But I think if the department was to make the public aware of where particular applications fall down on a regular basis so that they could be addressed by applicants in advance of submitting their application, it would help to speed that up. Again, in terms of when applications are granted on review, you know, there are commonalities in terms of why they're granted on review. Again, if they were compiled and made available, it would help to streamline the application process. The committee feels that, you know, the targets that are there at the moment do need to be modernised and updated. We would like an update from you in relation to that. If not today, Minister, you might come back to us on that. But also we would be anxious to have a meeting with the senior officials to go through this particular aspect of the programme, because we feel that, you know, it can help to improve the operation of the department. It can help to improve the oversight by senior management of the department, as well as bringing an extra layer of accountability that is required by this committee and by the Oireachtas because of the size of the budget that we're dealing with here on a day-to-day basis. And it is important, you know, that we look at ways how we can actually have measurables that actually drive the type of dynamic change that we need to see happening across the Department of Social Welfare. And, you know, the committee made reference to, for examples, in relation to the working family payment. Earlier here today, the committee spoke about the exceptional needs payment. Again, if the non-means tested exceptional needs payments were compiled, those that were granted and those were refused. That would give the committee as a whole sight of what's happening with that, and maybe endorse the approach that's been taken and articulated by you here today, Minister, and address maybe any inadequacies that we, as individual public representatives and members of the Oireachtas, are identifying on the ground across our constituencies. So if you could maybe, if not answer this today, reflect on it. And as I say, it is an issue that the committee would like to deal with in more detail with the officials in the near future. Minister.
Thank you, Ciarán. Just to say that my department has already implemented a review process whereby performance metrics are formally reviewed on an annual basis and amended as appropriate. I know that we do review our performance on a monthly basis when I meet with the management team. If there's any areas where deputies will have brought them to my attention, or I've seen them at my own constituency office, I would certainly raise those. And I've seen many cases where there have been longer delays or maybe backlogs have developed for whatever reason, and we have redeployed resources as necessary. Can I just say that I'm very proud to head up a Department of Social Protection that's agile and flexible when it comes to redeploying the resources into certain areas to sort out problems that may arise. They do it quickly, and I have to say it's not always the case across government that you get that level of as I say, agility and responding so quickly to the demands of the customers. It is a very customer-based department where the needs of our clients and our people come first. So we recently appointed, you were just mentioning appeals there. We recently appointed 2 deputy appeals officers, and I passed legislation to do that. We have, deputy chief appeals officers, I should say. We have the chief, and now we have 2 deputies, and that will help to speed up, because the legislation is such that ultimately the deciding officer or the principal, or the chief appeals officer determines the decision if it goes up the line to that there. So there was a lot of work there. She had to do it herself. So we have 2 new deputies in there to help speed that up. In terms of you said about the mistakes that we highlight the different things. I think though, if people, and I know it doesn't suit everybody, but if you go online and make your application online, there's less chance you'll make some of these mistakes, and it's probably streamlined more. Anything to do with a medical component, a lot of those sometimes the information is not there. It's just not provided in the first applications. We know that in our own offices, that somebody's applying for a benefit that's related to a medical condition, and there's a letter sent off with it, and it's very vague and doesn't give the details needed. So then we're sending them back to the doctor to get a more detailed letter, because when they tell you what's wrong with them, you say, well, that's not on the letter. How could anybody make a decision based on that type of information that's there? So you have to go back again, get the extra information, and majority of times the application is processed. But you're right, though, these are the sort of things we need to tell people. Get the right information in the first place, and it'll speed up your application. Then you have a recommendation in that all social welfare appeals are processed within a 12-week time frame. I think we have that down to a 12.9 weeks time frame. And again, sometimes things happen, but that's the average at the minute. And where we find that if there are issues that leads to delays, we do redeploy very, very quickly. So I think I've covered most of it for you there, Ciarán, and if there's anything else, I'm happy to come back. So thank you.
Yeah, look, Minister, first of all, can I thank you for your response? And look, there's absolutely no doubt about it. I think we all agree that in terms of flexibility, the Department of Social Protection has been exemplar in relation to that, in terms of the way that they have managed things, not just during the pandemic, but prior to that, when issues have arisen. And in fairness, the Department, when issues are brought to their attention, are a department, as you correctly say, that is very customer focused in relation to trying to address issues. And yes, you are correct in terms of many of the issues that members of the Oireachtas bring forward. They are very much customer focused issues. The difficulty is, Minister, that we have a responsibility to monitor the spend, to see that the targets in terms of policy are delivered. And we cannot do that in terms of the measurables that we have visibility of at the moment. So, for example, telling us the number of people that are actually paid a benefit on a weekly or monthly basis provides very little in-depth information to us about what is actually going on in the department in terms of meeting overall policy objectives. Take, for example, one issue that would be an issue for government in terms of policy, and that is to see many former carers transitioning back into the workforce when they're no longer in receipt of carers' benefit or carers' allowance. That is a policy objective of government. But there is no measurable there of the number of former carers that are coming off job seekers' allowance payments. We all accept that one of the biggest cohorts of people in receipt of social welfare payments in terms of poverty are people in receipt of the one family payment benefit. Yet there is no measurable in the performance indicators on that. Again, one of the issues that has been brought up consistently here by members has been the use of employment services to get people back into long-term sustainable employment. And a lot of the criticism that there has been in terms of employment services has been that issue. Will this provide, tender provide long-term sustainable employment for people? Again, there isn't a measurable in relation to that. So the point that the committee is making is that we do need a broader look in terms of the performance indicators that the department have. Now, I know that you are answering us here today, but the reality is the performance indicators are developed by management. They are presented here. This is a key part of our consideration of the estimate, but it is impossible for us to make a determination on that based on what is in this performance indicator at the moment. And that's why the committee have made the recommendation that they made. We have asked for engagement directly with the department so that we could design a set of performance indicators that meets the department needs, but also meets the needs of the committee and of the Oireachtas in terms of scrutiny. Because ultimately we all want the same thing. None of us want to see this particular budget vote being discussed at the Public Accounts Committee following a CNAG's report. That is ultimately our primary objective in relation to it. So can I ask you, Minister, that you might reflect on the comments that we've made here today. We will be asking the officials to come in to engage with us further on this, and you might give consideration to that in advance of a meeting, specifically in relation to that, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Cahir. Look, yeah, just before you came in or returned to the meeting, I did say that I do take on board all of the suggestions that are made, and I do value them. And I have made changes in my department based on suggestions that have come from the committee. And we're all at the end of the day, what we all want to do is make sure that the citizens are looked after, and that the payments and all of the supports that we give are there to help people. So, as I said, I'm happy to take on, to consider what you've said there about the performance indicators. It's something that obviously I'm very keen that we make sure that we meet those targets, and I'm sure the officials will have no problem coming in to go through it with you in more detail. Okay.
Thank you, Minister. And can I just finally remind you again that we have that outstanding request for next week in relation to the employment services. So just finally then...
well, just on that one, sorry, Cahir, look, there is, I will ask my private secretary, but I think I have covered. I am very restricted in what I can say on the local employment services because it's subject to a live procurement process at the minute, and I think you'll appreciate that. And I did raise, I outlined very clearly our position on it today, and I gave, I would say, all of the information that I can give based on the fact that it is a live process. So maybe I think perhaps maybe you could appreciate that.
Thank you, Minister. The estimate for vote number 37, the Department of Social Protection, the Clerk will now send a message to the effect to the Clerk of the Dáil in accordance with Standing Order 101 that the committee has now considered that estimate. So I'd like to thank the Ministers and their officials for their time this morning, and the Select Committee is now adjourned. Shinadee.